We are exploring the AI Rainforest, a space where we discuss a variety of intersecting topics like large language models, use cases, AI agents in Web3, reputation, and the innovative businesses and people at the forefront of this burgeoning space. Each episode features an expert in their field who shares their thoughts and opinions with us. Welcome, everyone. We are exploring the AI Rainforest today with Himanshu Udupi. Himanshu is a sophomore at University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, deeply immersed in the realms of artificial intelligence and blockchain technology. With a keen interest in decentralized systems and their intersection with AI, Himanshu has been actively contributing to Zeru's zScore research into merging on-chain and off-chain reputation and quantifying that into a portable value. His academic pursuits and hands-on experience position him as an emerging voice in the AI and crypto communities, bringing fresh perspectives to the evolving landscape of decentralized technologies. Himanshu, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm fine, Derek. Thank you for the introduction. I'm doing good. So a lot of work, but I'm doing good. Yeah.
That's fine. We're going to talk about that work and let you
Yes.
explain a lot of what you've been doing, because I think even for people who have read the paper themselves, I think there's a lot there, and so obviously a more layman's term explanation will
Yes.
go a long way for some
Sure.
people. So before we get there, let's get back to your roots. Tell us a little
Mhm.
bit about where you're from and your journey to studying AI at UIUC.
Yeah. So I was born in Bangalore, India, and I did all of my schooling there till the 12th grade. And then I was supposed to give the joint entrance examination, which is the entrance exam for like IITs and the top institutes in India. But my mom told me to take the SATs instead, so like along with the JE. And I did better on my SATs than I did in my JE, and I applied to colleges. And UIUC thankfully accepted me, and so it was always my top choice because it's known for its research and it's a pretty like prestigious school. So I chose UIUC and then I came in here. I think 2 years back. Made a lot of friends, uh, like really cool friends, and the atmosphere here is just like research, research, research. There's a lot of hustle, so it's really nice here, and that's what sort of drives me because everyone here is doing something on their own, and it feels good to be contributing to the community through your academic like pursuits too, right? So that's me. I do love dogs because I have my own dog, and yeah, I like a game of cricket and I watch basketball sometimes. So yeah.
Keeping the stereotype alive, that's good.
Yeah.
It's not a game I've paid much, if any, attention to. It looks really interesting from the outside, but it's a whole other set of terms and
Mhm.
positions and
Yeah.
scoring system and all that I need to learn. And I remember being, I don't know, probably about 20 or maybe even 30 years ago, the first time I heard about a cricket match, it was like 3 or 4 days long. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no,
That's
why? I can't watch the same game for 3 or 4 days. So I'm not asking for a cricket lesson now, but I understand that they've become, or there's like formats that are shorter, which is kind of
Mhm.
nice.
Yes.
But yeah, a 3-day try or 3-day match or whatever it is, I'm like, that's too much for me. That I could watch 10 soccer games in that time. So anyway, uh, um, that's great. Like, how did you first discover? Like, when did you first get your hands on a computer? What was that experience like? Like, was it something really ancient at this point, like MS DOS? Was it like Windows ME, and you just, kind of fell in love with the possibilities? When did that happen, and what was that like?
Um, I first got my hands on a computer uh, back in first grade, so in school. And I remember the first application which we learned was an animation application called Pivot Stick Figure, right?
Okay.
Where you had stick figures and then you could move the joints of the person and then make different animations. Like that was really cool. And then my first own laptop was in sixth grade, and and the first thing which I did with my laptop was to build a website for my mom on her birthday, and that's what made me like fall in love with like CS and like the whole idea of like computer science. And then it slowly like evolved more into hacking and like security and all of that, and then that fizzled out. But like math and CS interest still stayed, so like, that's what like led me on to be interested in AI and like math and theoretical CS in general. Uh, Apart from that, yeah, I would say Jarvis from like the Tony Stark movies or from the Iron Man series was always something like an inspiration or like something which I always found really cool. So uh, that's what got me interested in AI too. Right?
Yeah, I have ChatGPT Plus, which is I think $20 a month.
Yeah.
ChatGPT Pro is $200 a month. I'm not willing to pay for that. I'm willing to pay $200 a month for Jarvis for sure.
Exactly. But we're a long way from to get there, but hopefully we
Yeah,
do because AGI is pretty cool.
yeah, it is very cool. Yeah, I am confident we will get there at some point. I don't know if it's in the next 2 years or if it's the next 20 years, but um, I'm confident I'll be alive to see it. I just hope I'll be happy with the end
Fingers crossed.
result.
Yeah, exactly. So we don't want
Okay.
another Black Mirror happening.
No, I do not. I do not want to see any Black Mirror situations play out.
Exactly.
Or sometimes the first half of the Black Mirror episode
Mhm.
seems interesting,
Seems
and the one
good.
that comes to mind the most is a British couple. They're relatively young, like probably in their late 20s, early 30s. The husband passes away, and
Mhm.
she orders a replica, right? Based on all their chats and their emails and whatever videos he sent her and audio messages, stuff like that. So, like, it's trained
It
on
is.
him,
Yeah.
right? But things not quickly, about halfway through the episode, things really get weird
Seems
and
very-
sideways.
yeah.
And yeah, I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, but it's like
Mhm.
it starts off as kind of endearing, right? Because I was like, oh, you could like
Yeah,
replace, quote unquote,
replace
your
someone.
loved one with, but like the goal for that should be helping you with the grieving process, right? It should be, at least in my opinion, it should be like, okay, you didn't get a chance to say goodbye, right? So like for $1 million, for $1,000, whatever it costs, we'll give you an opportunity to sit with them again, spend some time with again, but like wrap up the relationship in a more healthy way, other than besides this really abrupt cutoff because they were
Yeah,
in a car accident or uh, got murdered in a botched robbing, theft or whatever. Like
definitely. Yeah.
I get it, an abrupt end to a life can leave you in a lurch as the survivor, but
But
that episode
there's
gets
a lot of
really creepy
yeah.
by the end of it. So, yeah, or okay, one more. There's also the one with the robot dogs where the robot
Hmm.
dogs like go crazy and end up just chasing everybody and murdering everybody they run into. Obviously not ideal.
Yeah.
But anyway, great show. But yeah, if you
Hmm.
want to see the worst that can happen in almost any situation involving technology, that's the show for you.
Yeah, that's the show.
They also have a credit score, which maybe we
Yeah.
can we can compare and contrast to later. But yeah, anyway, I have to ask, just because I'm a native to this area, you and I are not that far apart
Yeah.
physically. What was your first winter like in Illinois?
Oh, I would say I froze to death because I was not prepared, right? So I thought like a single big jacket is enough, and then I go out, I'm like, no, no. So I need more layers, and yeah. So at first, so I still remember my first snow. So I was really excited, and then I go out and like I didn't feel the cold because of the excitement, but then after that like whole month of it just snowing or like a whole like month or two of it just snowing, I was done with it. I was like, yeah, I prefer spring better than the winter. But yeah, it was my first winter was terrible, but like this winter was fine, I guess. Like it was much shorter, but still like Midwest, I guess. I think I
Yeah,
missed
yeah,
it.
definitely. you get weather that is pre Great Lakes,
Hmm.
and I get it post Great Lakes. So after it goes over the Great Lakes, it tends to pick up a lot more moisture, and therefore we get more snow. But it tends to be colder on your side, and so
Okay.
like Illinois, Minnesota will often be colder than southwestern Ontario, but we'll get more snow. So damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like it's
Yes.
really cold and maybe not too much snow,
Hmm.
or vice versa. Um, it's actually it sounds like we had opposite winters. This
Hmm.
past winter, lots of snow. The 4 or 5 winters before, almost no snow. Quite warm, unseasonably warm. So it's been a little topsy turvy. But anyway, this is not a weather
Yeah.
podcast.
Hmm.
So all right, so you're at UIUC, you're studying computer science, AI, etc. Um, how did you meet the team at Zeru? Because I don't know how often it happens that
Hmm.
somebody who's still in university is actively contributing the way you are to Zeru's zScore model and really being the primary driver behind a lot of the research and the model itself. Like, how did that? Where did that start?
Yeah. So it was after my second semester, so my freshman year, and it was during the summer. So I'd gone back home, and like any 18 or like 19-year-old would do, I was having the time of my life because it's like the summer, right?
Yeah.
And my mom saw that, and she was like, maybe you're having a little too much fun. So like, why don't you go and intern somewhere or like look for work? So I was like, okay, well, so like if you think I should, then let's do it, right? So like there's this college called PES, which is like near my house, right? So I went and I did an interview as an intern uh, for their startup incubator lab, and which is
Okay.
called PBL, right? And like during the interview, so the interviewer asked me, sorry, what like project I would be most interested in, and like Zeru was one of them. And I still remember his phrasing. It was so. So he told me that there's a small startup which is working on like trying to identify fraudulent transactions, like on the blockchain, right? And up until then, my only interaction with the blockchain and all of this was from CoffeeZilla, right? And like it was all of his exposes on like the meme coins and like I think Solana it was called, or like
Yeah.
Celestial Moon and all of that, right? So it was mostly like rock pool experience, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. So I want to know how AI can help in this, right? So I signed up for that project without any second thought, and uh, the first day there, I got the data set, and then I went and met Guru and Akshay, the founders of Zero, and yeah, so we really clicked it off, like hit it off, and the whole of my summer I just spent interning, and I love the atmosphere. So like, which is why I decided to continue and come on full time. And you could say that it was all like because of my mom. I ended up let's say working at Zeru, but yeah. So like that's how I met them, and all like a bit of luck, and but yeah. So here we are, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a parent myself, so and I do like my mom was the one pushing me, like, "Hey, you're 16 now. Go get your driver's license. Go
Yeah,
get a job,
exactly.
etc." So she kicked me out the door, but I still had to go figure out which door to go in.
Yeah.
What interests me, etc. So yes, give your mom the
Yeah.
credit for sure for
Yes.
telling you to go do something other than
Yeah.
party all summer. But at the same time, you had to have an initial interest in AI. You had to find
Yes.
the topic interesting.
Hmm.
Things clicked with you between
Hmm.
Akshay and Guru,
Yeah.
and that still needed to happen too. If you had met Akshay and Guru and decided these guys are a bunch of
Nah.
bozos, I don't want to talk to them ever for whatever reason,
Yeah.
we wouldn't be here today, or
Hmm.
we could be here still, but you'd be working on something else. So
Yeah.
still, you should take that credit of like,
Hmm.
I took the initiative, I went ahead and I did the interview, I saw something I liked, I went for it. But
Hmm.
yes, of course,
Yeah.
give your mom credit
Yes.
for pushing you through the door in the first place. Um, okay, so yeah, so you've been working with on-chain data. The first version of zScore focused on Aave data, a few years worth.
Yeah.
Um, what was that process like? Like you're looking at, just a bunch of transactions. One wallet borrows, wallet lends. The one that borrows hopefully repays their debt, because Aave is a lending protocol across a variety of chains. And like you're looking at this
Yeah.
data, and what started to jump out
Yes,
at
sir.
you?
Yeah. So, well, we need to go back to like last summer for that, because like that's when I started working with this. So the first day of work, I still remember I got the data set and I was like, oh my god, there are like so much of features. It's my first time seeing this, so I was a little like tense or anxious because I didn't know what to do, right? And so I asked the person who was working on this before, and they were as clueless as me because like they were pure AI. So I went and I asked Akshay, and then Akshay was like, "Oh, there's this protocol called Aave, and like, why don't you read their like white paper?" And then I started reading their white paper, and I was like, "Hold on, this is not fraudulent transactions as to the way I was thinking." Uh, so it was not a rug pull. It's like rather like it's a simple uh, like loan system, right? And then I
Yeah.
dug deeper, and then I realized that oh wait, this is nothing like a loan system I know. There's no time of repayment, so there's something called a health factor and like all of that. So as anyone would do, I just dug in and I did some research and I found that Cred was doing something like this. Um, and from there it started building up. But initially, just looking at the data, just looking at the massive amount of transaction files, I remember I think it was almost 10 million transactions per file. Sorry, not per file. So for borrow, it was 10 million transactions, and then repay like 5 million transactions. And then since it's transactional and it's not user based, it can get really like overwhelming. So I spent a good 1 month just figuring out what the data was trying to like tell to me, right? Just like figuring out how we're going to group the data and like move the data from a transactional level to a wallet level like representation. I would
Mhm.
say uh, the hardest part was understanding the repay mechanisms and how the positions work, because like that took some time to like grasp and understand. But once I was done, it was all coding and like implementation. And since it was my first project, like I made some mistakes here and there, but like so like the people at the startup incubator were always helpful, and like I could like use their help. Yeah, but what started like striking out to me was that was was that while was was that while there were a lot of outliers in the data, so like most of them were like centered like around the averages, and like there was not a lot of deviation, right? And the some deviation which there was, it was so it was like a percent ish like worth of data, right? Compared to the bigger picture. So like that was pretty cool, and like I was really surprised because I thought, oh, like it's some so we're trying to like analyze behavior here, so maybe it's going to be really spread out, like maybe you can't get any trends and all of that. But
Right.
it's really started showing trends like even in the exploratory phase like phase of the model, where you're trying to figure out like median repay time and like median borrow time and all of that. So it was really cool to see that, and it was really cool to see theory being applied practically, because like mind you, it was my first project too.
Yeah.
So like really cool to see that what I was learning theoretically worked out practically.
So I'm not a developer, right? So
Hmm.
like I know enough to be
Hmm.
dangerous. I know enough terminology. I understand the process a little bit. So it sounds like you were probably writing some scripts to kind of crawl through the
Yep.
data, give you standard deviations, that sort of thing. So really, like, I guess analyzing portions of the data, and
Correct.
then that started to turn into the idea behind the model and what the model should actually look for. Does that sound
Yeah.
about right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You're right. So we wrote script first. right? And then we did our like analysis and so on each of the features. So like how often are our users borrowing, for example, right? So if you know that time, so you can get some sort of an idea as to, oh, like, is there a lot of time difference between this group and this group, right? So like that is slowly hinting towards clustering or like grouping different users. Like that's how it works, and like that's how the pipeline works. So, or if there's a linear or correlation between some, so like between two features, like maybe time between borrows and like how like volatile they borrow, right? So like maybe they're like like borrowing a really volatile asset or something. So like does it increase, or like does the time between borrows increase or something like that? So if there's a relation, then you can exploit it using a model, right? So that's how it works. And like, so while yeah, and then that shapes what your score is going to represent too, right? Because I can just like fit a model for like the transactional data, and I can be like, oh, it spit out like a random number, but what does it represent? So like
Right,
that's how
right.
it goes ahead.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. And so we've talked to some of the advisors, Pete Martins, Parag Paul. Uh, Pete was able to tell us, yes, clustering was the chosen way to, group these, as opposed to everybody gets an individual score, 101, 102, 103, 104. We've got like groups that are in 50, maybe groups that have a 100 score, a 200 score, etc. What was the decision process behind that? Like what other models did you, or options did you look at in terms of assigning scores, I guess more or less on a grade, because obviously you have badly performing wallets, whoever is behind them, and good DeFi behaving wallets as well at the top end.
Yeah. So obviously, since like this is like something being done for the first time, and since it's new, so I didn't have any reference to go off of, right? So I can't say that, hey, look, like this wallet behavior must map to this code, right? While Cred like does it in their own way, right? They have some drawbacks which I do not want to get into this model, right? Uh, so now I have, like each wallet has its own like behavior, right? The intuition is that in like such a large data set, you will see patterns of repeated behavior, right? So you want to be able to group them. So a linear model is now going to help you group them, right? So what's going to help you group them? So a clustering model is going to help you group them. But in a clustering model, so say you have, so say you group these behaviors out, right? You have two options. So either you label each user with the exact score, which they're supposed to get, or you like label them with the range, right? So the way you make your choice is to see what does the cluster like represent. Does it represent an exact behavior, or does it like like represent the notion of that behavior, right? So by exact behavior, I mean like all users have the same values, like in their features. Like so they have exactly five borrows and like they borrow volatile 50% of the time, for example, and they repay like every 3 days, right? So if they have these exact features, then we can say, okay, then this cluster should get an exact score. But our clusters did not, right? So we had a mean borrow, we had a max borrow, we had a min borrow. So they were really spread out like over like the cluster space or whatever. Now, since they were spread out, so it made sense to give them a range of zScore, like give this cluster a range, right? So let's just say that cluster X has a range of 100 to 200, right? So that would mean that most of these users are new and they just started out and like they have like very few transactions, right? Now comes to labeling each and every user, right? Since while we have a range, do we really know where does this user fall in this range, right? Like that's the whole point. So for this, we had to come up with like something really unique, right? Like, because I had to sit and think, like, at least for me, it's unique. I don't know if it's been done in the literature before, but for me, it was like something really new and cool. So the way we did it was that we took the min values of each feature, right? And then we mapped it to the minimum of the range which we're giving, right? So say a new user comes in, so his value is going to be zero borrow, zero repay, zero liquidations, 0% volatile, 0% stable. So he gets mapped to the z-score of 100, right? And then the maximum borrow which you can get is, let's just say, 6, right? So the user having 6 borrows, and then like, so like not a lot of like volatile transactions, let's just say like 0.5% volatile, will get mapped to 200, right? And all of them between that, and like obviously like the users exactly in the cluster center, right, will get mapped to 150, right? So now you have some exact scoring involved too, right? So you can somehow score the outliers or like the extremes, and you can score the middle people, right? Now it's all in between, like it's a 25th percentile and the 75th percentile which you need to worry about, right? So how do you transition from the 50th to the 100th and 0 to the 50th? So the way we do that is that we see the most important feature of that cluster, right? So say you are a new user, right? So same cluster. So we would ideally encourage users to like borrow more or to like interact with the protocol more, right? Like at this point in time, we want users to get to know the protocol more, so like they can play around with it. So maybe the most important feature for this cluster is going to be the number of borrows they've done, and like the most and like how frequently are they borrowing, or like how frequently are they active like in the protocol, right? So like looking at the importance of the features, so we graded them. So if a user uh, is like somewhere in between the cluster center and like one of the extremes. So we see how far or like how like deviated they are from so like from the mean borrow count, or like from the max borrow count, and then we give them a score according to that. So like that's how we like built an intuition, right? Saying that okay, so the farther the users are from the cluster center, and like which features are the farthest, that's how you get scored, right? Like, did this make sense, or like was it too high level? Or-
No, no, that doesn't make sense. I have the benefit of having helped you edit the
yeah.
paper. So I read through at least the first few drafts a few times.
Mhm.
And obviously I wasn't just paying attention to grammar and spelling. I was reading
Mhm.
it for
Yeah.
comprehension to make sure it made sense and all that. So yes, I get it, but I think anybody with even a small semblance of like stats analysis, percentiles, things like that, and obviously borrowing behavior. Yeah,
Yeah.
if you borrow really often, but you also repay often, okay, that's
Yeah.
good. If you
That's good.
borrow often and never repay, that's bad. You
Mhm.
might also be somewhere in the middle. You've been liquidated a few times. Other
Mhm.
times you've paid back your loan. Okay, so you're somewhere in the middle there. Not good, obviously, but
Yeah.
not an awful
Not bad. Mhm.
DeFi user either, or at least not the worst.
Mhm.
So, I think people can understand that. And now I'm wondering, as you guys have been working on zScore V2,
Mhm.
does this whole paradigm of adding in other lending protocol data, DEX data, and DAO voting data, etc., is that completely blowing up this whole clustering set? The model you had, is that completely blowing that up, and you guys are
Yeah.
having to start from scratch again, or are you slowly feeding in and seeing the effects, and then we're like, okay, if we had compound, which is still a lending protocol. If we had compound data, almost no effect. Cool.
Mhm.
But I mean, specifically, if you look like at a wallet like Jared from Subway.eth, which is an MEV, attacking type
Yeah.
wallet, bot behind it, it it does really well for itself, but it literally attacks other people's transactions, and therefore, what impact does that have on the score of a wallet that behaves that way? Like, are you still able to carry this clustering model through, or are you guys having to kind of rethink the whole thing?
Okay. Yeah. So the whole, well, the framework like remains the same, right? So the
Okay.
pipeline is still going to remain the same. So we get in like data from like new protocols, and then we like pre-process them, get the transactional data to like represent wallet behavior, and then we feed them to a clustering model, right? And then we train our like ML model on it, right? Like this pipeline remains the same, but the kind of like algorithms we use for so also to cluster users, or so the kind of like inferences we get from the clustering algorithms has changed, right? So like for example, like in dexes you will not be getting like behavior which is like similar to like lending protocols, right? So
Right.
you will be getting flipper behavior, or you'll be getting like different kinds of behavior, right? So for us to be able to map that behavior to its own z-score scale is going to be a little tough, right? Since it's not been done before. At least for lending protocols, we had something like cred, or like better even. So we had something like the FICO scores to go off of, right?
Right.
To be able to like generate some sort of like reference and like some sort of grading system as such. But for
Yeah.
dexes, you have no idea. So like you need to sit and really go into the fundamentals. And like for that, we have people like Ashutosh, and then we have our like Zeru team, like which will help out. But in terms of seeing how like lending protocols relate to dexes, and like how like this behavior is interconnected, uh, yeah, the clustering like algorithm has blown up. Like we need to start from scratch, right? And then we need to like reimagine like how we're going to like relate both of these two. And like most of the work like I have been doing, at least in the past month or two, has been like trying to consolidate these two fields together, and like trying to uh, like get one score out, like so like rather than an aggregate, right? Or like different scores for like different kinds of protocols, right? Now, coming to your like next question, right? So, do wallets which like do like themselves good, but the community bad, it's like do they get penalized or not? So they do, right? Because the whole idea of zscore is, or like of like reputation, is to not be selfish like that, right? Is to also do some sort of good to the community, or to do no good at all, right? While you do good to yourself, or like while you improve your own circumstances,
Right.
because it's all about giving back to the community. Yes, so like it's just through like decentralizability, right? So if you're not contributing to the community in the positive way, then I don't think this is going to grow. So the most important thing over here is to grow, and is to help other people to while you're growing. So yeah, so
Yeah.
like those wallets do get penalized, but like not as much, because like we do understand that, okay, like maybe there might be some reason as to why they did that, or like whatever, but they do get penalized. But
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to, you don't need to comment on this, but there's something to be said for, well, the wallet's just doing things that are possible on chain, right? And so it's like, yeah, if Jared from Subway finds a large swap where the bot figures out it can take, it can make $10,000, is that its fault? No, it's
It's
doing
not.
what it's been programmed to do, right? And it's using the protocol in a way that, in some cases, is intended. Obviously, there's a loser in that transaction. At the same time, and I don't know if this is true. I'm just throwing out ideas. Jared from Subway could be a very responsible lending protocol user,
Exactly.
and providing lots of liquidity on high quality token pairs and things like that on dexes. So it's like, yes, there is extractive behavior here that needs to be penalized, but at the end of the day, how much, right? And then I guess, but at the same time, that goes to, I guess, the product pipeline where the model will be adaptable for a specific protocol, right? So if you're a lending protocol and you only care about their lending behavior, cool. We've got a Z
Cool.
score for you
Yeah,
for all the
for you.
wallets.
Yes.
If you care about how good of a liquidity provider they are, maybe it's not this a different Z score. I don't know, but you'll be able to filter for that of like, we just want high quality liquidity providers. We want to incentivize them to participate in our protocol, obviously provide liquidity, makes it easier to swap, blah blah blah. Cool, no problem. At the same time, I guess potentially you could say, I want good liquidity providers, but I don't want people who are at the same time extracting value where it's seen, perceived as a scam, in a scammy way. Okay, cool. You should be able to, potentially you could filter out those as well. Like, yes, good liquidity provider, but they trade like jerks on dexes.
Yep.
Set them off to the side.
Yeah.
Which I know is part of the product
Beach.
roadmap.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I guess it's like you said, it's taking
Yeah.
time, it's effort to really think these things through, feed the data in, see what kind of impacts it has, and then eventually be able to let the protocols that integrate zScore filter out what they want to filter out.
Yeah. Yeah. So from the filtering side of things, so like that part is like purely like product based, right?
Yeah,
Because like the model's still going to stay the same. Like there's
yeah,
not a
yeah,
lot of like architectural like changes which you would make, right? But so like when it comes to like representing a single z-score for all of this, that's when the model starts changing, and like that's when you want to be able to really gauge a user's like past history or like past behavior across all sorts of protocols, and then give them a singular z-score. That's the really tough part. But like
yeah,
on the side of product, so like on the product side, it's like it is still like pretty tough to be able to like pull all of the data, but it's like so like relatively easier. But so like that's why for for like cross protocol or like cross sector integration, I would say um, there's a lot to be done. There's a lot of groundwork to be done, and like I'm really excited for it because like we're the first people to be doing so. So there's no real like right or wrong, but there's always an attempt, and like that's really good to know. Um, Maybe we can be the credit to like some other protocols, right? And like that's always the intent with which at least I do my research. Like be like a value add, right? So yeah, but like really cool stuff. Uh, like really excited for V2. So I can't really tell when it's going to come out, because but like it will come out, right? And but it will come out soon, right? So
yeah.
because I don't want
You
to.
can't rush greatness. That's okay.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah.
um, we're coming up to time here. I want to see if I can squeeze in two quick questions. We've had some of the advisors, Pete and Parag, on the show before. What's your interaction been like with them? How has that experience been?
I mean, it's been great, right? So like Professor Pete and I, we have an 18 email long chain, right? So like where we just kept like replying to each other ASAP, and like so like Pete was really like responsive to the paper, and like he would normally have like feedback out like within a day or two, and like I really like love that because I know that he's a professor too, and like he's a really uh, like a big name in this field. So I was
Yeah,
like really
no
shocked that he
problem.
had enough time. Exactly. So I was really shocked that he had enough time to go through my paper and and to like give me constructive feedback. Uh, and yeah, so like he was always excited for me, and like it was a really good like relationship with him, and so like Parag too, right? So like Parag's been helping me. So like not only like so I would say like theoretically, but he's also been helping me, uh, like go about learning how to present posters or like submitting to conferences and all that. So he's not only like on the Zeru side of things, so he's also been helping me uh, like evolve as a researcher, I would say. Uh, and like Professor Pete too, but he's been focused only on the paper side of things. And like
Yeah,
I can't thank them enough, right? And like they've been like pretty responsive, and like in fact like I can text any of them like right now, and like I'm pretty sure like they will like reply with so like within an hour or so, and like that's really nice to know. and I always fall back on them. So like whenever I have a question, and they've always like embraced me with open arms, no matter how stupid or dumb the idea might sound. So yeah, like they've
Good.
been really nice.
That's great. Okay. Last one. What are you most excited about over the next, let's say, 12 months?
Getting V2 out and seeing how like V2 plays so like around in the protocols. So the exciting thing about V2 is that there is potential not only to contribute to the Web3 side of things, but also to the AI side of things, right? So being able to contribute to two fields is like really exciting, and the kind of research we uh, like so like so like we're planning on doing is like pretty new. It's pretty recent, and like I'm reading papers which have been published in the last 3 months or so. So it's really exciting to see that, hey, like at least like Zeru is at the state of the art, right? And like
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see how this pans out, like so like in the Web3 space, and like how we solve uh, like this problem of like reputation and whatever, right? I'm really excited for that. Yeah, just V2, like in general, like if anyone just comes in and asks me what you're excited for, like regardless, I'm going to say V2 for this, because like this is the thing to be working on, and really cool stuff. So yeah,
Good stuff.
V2,
All
and
right.
hopefully like Zeru token launches. I don't know.
That will happen eventually too. Yeah. Also excited for that. I think
Yeah,
that's looking potentially later this year, 2025. I don't make that decision. You don't make that decision,
yeah,
so we
exactly.
can't say for sure. But yes, I think Zeru's product team is working really, really hard on getting zScore integrated, into the hands of different protocols, so we can actually see it used in the real world in terms of Web3, and then obviously bolting on. Off-chain credentials with Reclaim protocol and really I think honestly this could potentially be a much better credit score than what
Yeah,
we have now, especially even in the States, even here in Canada, especially in countries where literally credit scoring systems don't even exist. Or you could make a really good argument that it's completely backwards from the way it should work and things like that. So yeah,
yeah,
it's exciting. I agree, and you're at the forefront. I'm just the guy who's helping
yeah.
communicate. So and edit the papers and stuff like that. So good for you. All right, man. Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
your time. I think this was really enlightening. I hope everybody enjoyed listening to it. And we will see you next time as we
Thank you.
continue to explore the AI rainforest.